It's classic movie banter.
Yeehaw!
Now dig on this.
I don't know if you're quick enough on the draw.
But I'm not that quick of a painter. What am I, Gene Kelly in American in Paris?
Yeah, clearly there's going to be some asshole art student from the States come up to you and just fucking like tear apart your work, and then you respond by like tearing apart their soul.
Oh no. I'll show you who's quick to draw. Because boom, chicka pow, Brenton, it's Western time here at Classic Movie Banter. We're both in our ponchos. It's so exciting.
Oh, I love my poncho. It's a good time. Nathan, it took us 122 episodes to finally do a Western. What is wrong with us?
Well, hey, I mean, if you count Wild Wild West as a Western, but you know, like, we don't really know if that counts.
Nathan, clearly I don't count it as a Western when I didn't include it. I said this is the first Western we've done.
It is.
Because, you know what? It's surprising because I love Westerns, you know? I like this genre.
I love the direction of West in general. Like, I try to walk there most days.
I wish I lived in Perth. No, I don't.
Brenton, cough, cough. Are you going to maybe introduce the show?
Maybe. Welcome to Classic Movie Banter. You know that show where me, that guy Brenton, and that other cowboy over there, Nathan.
Howdy.
We talk about films that are 20 years or older, 20 years, and we tell you, our lovely listeners, whether they are still worth watching today or not. Like if you tied them to the back of a horse and you just rode off into the sunset with them jiggling behind you.
Oh, baby. Since like day one, I've wanted us to do a Western, and I'm so glad we're finally fucking here. And also, heads up for you listeners, we're doing the whole Dollars Trilogy. So next 3 weeks, buckle in, get your horse seatbelts all strapped, and get ready for some Western chats.
But you know, for now, Nathan, I just reached into my pocket, and you know what I found?
What's that, Brenton?
I found a Fistful of Dollars, which was a 1964 spaghetti western film. I have to say that it was released in 1964 in Italy first, and then it was later released in the States in 67. But yeah, it was directed by this guy that I've never heard of before, Sergio Leone.
Who you almost triggered me then. I'm like, I beg your pardon. Is he maybe one of the greatest directors who ever lived?
He's directed some films I've never heard of, such as For a Few Dollars More, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Once Upon a Time in the West. You know, like, I'm not sure who this is. It seems like he might have even just created his own genre, just casually on the side. I'm not sure.
As you do. He's like a Billy Wilder, like, whoops, here's the film noir genre. Whoops, here's another Oscar-winning drama.
Whoops, there we go. It just came out, you know.
What's with all this spaghetti?
What's hilarious about that is that I knew that I was triggering you by saying that. Like, for a split moment, I had you.
You can see the flash
I had
of
you
anger,
fooled.
but it's come and it's gone, Brenton. Like Clint Eastwood in this movie, just in and out, you know?
I saw your hand inching towards your six-shooter.
Just triggering it, shaking it. Oh, could you do a good, like, Clint Eastwood, like, frown for me? Like what he does in the movie? Listeners, you try at home. Give us your best Clint Eastwood frowns and tweet at us. Put them on the Insta.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Nathan, do you have a question?
Yes, please pitch for me a fistful. Please pitch for me.
A fistful?
Please pitch for me, Brenton, a fistful of dollars. Can you pitch me the movie?
Alrighty, Nathan. What we're doing is we're going to some random little town on the Mexico-United States border.
Ah, okay.
And we're in this little town, and this stranger rocks up to town. This guy in a poncho with a hat and his horse, and he rides into town. And boy, can I tell you, this town's a piece of shit. You know what I mean?
Oh, tell me about it.
It's pretty horrible. There's 2 gangs, you know, one's kind of the law in town, but still doing some shady dealings on the side.
Oh, yeah.
And the other's run by this group of brothers who are just straight out and out bandits, you know what I mean? And they're also doing some shady deals. Everyone's terrible. Everyone's murdering. Apparently, like, the morgue guy, I guess you'd call him, the coffin maker in town.
He's having a good time. He's all right.
He's the only one having a good time because he's the only one turning a prop.
Business is great for him.
Business is a booming, you know what I mean? But Clint Eastwood comes into town, he kind of gets the lay of the land, some bandits make some fun of him, and he realizes that there's money to be made in this town, even though everyone says it's dried up and whatnot.
He buys shares in the coffin business.
Exactly. No, he starts supplying wood. No.
Clint Eastwood is a stockbroker.
He realizes there's money to be made if he turns these 2 gangs against one another and starts playing them for fools and being the in-between guy between the both of them.
How many dollars would Clint Eastwood make, Brenton?
Exactly a fistful, I think. Stirring up the town enough that he can get on either side and get away with a fistful of dollars, and maybe as well bettering the town.
After all this murderous rampage, maybe the town will be better. We'll find out.
Maybe. I don't know. It's a question that we might have to answer. But yeah, that's basically it. Dude rocks up to a town. It's a piece of shit. And he realizes he can make some money.
I like it, Brenton. It reminds me of when you first moved to Sydney, what you attempted to do.
Yeah, I attempted to turn you against your...
You held up the entire town of Sydney.
I did. I turned everyone against each other, and I still don't have any money.
Oh, no.
So it didn't work.
Next time. Oh, well. Brenton, here we go. All right, Sergio Leone. I'm so excited because, like, you know, there's also hype behind this man's films, and you can see him, like, etching throughout cinema. All, you know, everyone's stolen from him. You know, whatever dollars Sergio Leone made, it was stolen.
He's broke.
The man is broke and probably dead. So, oh well. But here's a movie to remember him by.
Okay. No, well, you know, that's nice. Good on you, Sergio Leone. I think his name is. I'm not sure.
Tell you what, we're gonna have a bunch of Italian names in this because we have the music of Enrico Morione or whatever his name is.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
we do.
We got his music. We got Clint Eastwood, the most Italian in this movie, obviously. And Brenton, we got a whole town of like Mexicans and Americans, but I think they're all exclusively played by Italians.
I think you're correct, Nathan.
Yes.
I think you're exactly right.
And I think there's a very bad case of whitewashing where some Italians have been colored by paint to be Mexicans in this movie.
That's true. It's interesting. So is that your big takeaway though? Is that like
that's my one observation.
Is that the first thing that like came to your mind upon watching this?
No, Brenton, I just go where the convo takes me, mate. I'm just a go with the flow kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Oh, I hear you.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, it's notable, like, you know, that, you know, this was made obviously in the early 60s. So,
I know, you told us the year.
Yeah, I did. It was a different time, Nathan. You know, we weren't as appropriate in terms of our casting, let's say.
Yes.
When it came to movies like this and casting appropriately and getting the right mix of cultures and people to play these parts.
But, you know, all that aside, it's a product of the time. Sure, that's there. But, like, this is a spaghetti western, Brenton. So we know we're in the middle of Italy. That's you know, presenting to be America for whatever reason. And here we are. So, yeah, what'd you think, buddy?
I like this movie.
You do like this movie, don't you?
I do like this movie.
Yes.
In fact, some would say I love this movie.
Oh, well, there we go, Brenton. And you know what? There's a lot to love. Like, this is probably the best directed movie I think we've seen in a while.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, in sharp contrast to El Dorado last week, you know, the directing's only going to go up.
Oh, settle down there, Nathan. No, I think Sergio has obviously got his own style, which he sticks to in this, and I think the cinematography is pretty awesome as well. In terms of, like, there's like that classic, like just going from like stark, like real close-ups to like these massive long shots and whatnot, and everything in between. So there's
the framing's amazing. Like all the characters kind of standing together,
constantly going on. This movie runs at about an hour
40,
and it's pacey. It's good. I think the contrast, like I said, keeps to that. You know, you never feel like stilted in terms of like the way this movie's edited together, the way it flows. It's really good. It's a simple storyline. Like for anyone that just wants to pop on a movie, like it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I didn't really care that much about like the actual conflict between the two groups. Like there's something going on about them smuggling goods and all that shit, and I'm like, I'm not following any of this. Like, I just want to see Clint Eastwood tear up shop.
I cared. I don't know if I necessarily cared about the characters' plights. Like I didn't, I think like you empathize with them to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, you realize that these people are all just scumbags.
Yeah.
And you kind of want to see them get their comeuppance. And for a while, you don't know if you're really going to, because it seems that the man with no name, or Clint Eastwood, or Joe, as some people call him in this movie, he's not there necessarily to do good.
No. And I was surprised about that, because knowing nothing about this character, except knowing this is an iconic character from cinema, I thought Clint Eastwood would genuinely be like the moral of it, and be like, I gotta uphold the good, and I'll come in and do a good thing, then leave. But he kind of like, fucks up through most of the movie and kind of just tries to escape with as much money as he can. So he's no good, Brenton.
Not necessarily. I don't know. Like, because for the most part, there's obviously a point where like he makes a mistake or he makes an error and he pays for that. But for the most part, I think you could make the argument that he's there for good moral reasons and he's there to do the right thing. Because he never really exclusive. He's an interesting character because he never really gives away his motivation necessarily.
No, he gives a hint. He gives a hint at one point later on the movie.
Yeah, he says at the start, look, I think there's money to be made here. Yes. But at the same time, like, it's not like he's necessarily in it for the money when like you said, because there's a point later on where you go, if you were there for the money, I don't know if you'd make that decision.
No. And like he does clearly say a character motivation later on in the film, but that's a little bit spoilery, so
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
Yeah, but I like him. I'm actually surprised how much I'm latching on to this character as a protagonist, considering, you know, he does some questionable things too.
Yeah, no, I love him as a protagonist, especially kind of in this world of this film. But like, if I didn't know there was any, like, if there was 2 other films starring this character to come, I'd be very happy with kind of like the world of this, in the sense of like, I think it's enough, and I like this character in this town and like what he does in the events of this film. And obviously like there's things he can do later on, and there's more things he can do with this character, but I think it really fits kind of like the grunginess and the moral ambiguity of this town, you know what I mean? And what a shit place to live, can I just say? Like, that just looks like
it reminds me a lot of like Tremors, like the shitty little town out west with, you know, I could see bloody Kevin Bacon just rocking up at one point going, man, this is shit.
Totally. And it's not even the fact that like, because to start off with, the town, like in terms of its landscape and where it is, it's in the middle of some fucking desert. It just looks horrible. Like there's not many like facilities, or like, you know, the living arrangements look pretty
everything's
dire.
like made of like plank woods, and it's all kind of hot. You can feel the heat in this film. This film is really good at capturing that. It just looks
Totally.
And also everyone looks miserable. Not a single character smiles once in this movie. Like, everyone's just miserable.
I also like never really see any livestock or anything like that. So, and they admit as well, like there's not really any farming or anything going on. It's all this trade, I guess, that's coming through, and it's like questionable as to like what's going on with that, because like it seems that like the gangs have like
They just got like the Dow Jones outside like the inn or something. Like,
totally.
look at all this
It's
trade.
It just looks like the worst place to live, and so I like that. And the film really captures that.
Yeah.
And because of that, like I think it's fun, like watching these character interactions between these like shitty people, such as the 3 brothers in this movie, and how they interact and how they're introduced as well,
they're kind of all the same, to be honest, to me.
Oh, you think so? I thought they were pretty distinct.
Oh, I mean, visually, certainly. I mean, oh boy, did the costume department have fun with these characters.
Yeah, oh yeah, the production design and the costuming, I think, is like really on point.
It reminds me a bit of Marvel in the way that like they make every character have like a very distinctive costume. Like these cowboys kind of echo that superhero kind of thing.
Totally, everyone's very distinct in themselves.
Yeah.
Whilst obviously everyone's got hats and things, like they're obviously very much.
They've all got hats.
Yeah, like they're very characterized, and like, you know, like there's multiple ponchos going around, but not only that, like, you know, the man with no name's poncho is different to some other cowboy's poncho, you know what I mean? Like they're very distinct in terms of their characterizations. And I'd argue that in terms of like the way the characters are written as well, such as those 3 brothers, I'd say that the 3 characters are like very different. They're starkly different, in fact. Like, and we're introduced obviously to the eldest, I think, who's I guess the more laxed one, in the sense of like he's more the business guy, you know what I mean? Like he's not out there to just like stir up shit or like, you know, draw his gun every 2 seconds and take someone out. He's kind of like a survivor in that sense. He's kind of more thinking about he's kind of more thinking about himself and the logistics of the business side of things, and going, hey, why the fuck are we doing this? Like let's try and stay ahead.
See, that's really interesting, because like I didn't really get any of that, to be honest with you. Like,
but what I think the movie's really good at is like it tells you these things in like a few lines of dialogue, and then like it's all just showing you it, basically, like in terms of their interactions, how they.
Yeah, I do like that. There's barely any exposition in it.
Yeah, like I love that, and I think you get all of that. You get all these little details that flesh everything out. I think it's all the work's there, and I think it's just we're just kind of peeking in on times of like these relationships and what's going on because of that. Like I think those 3 brothers were really fleshed out in that sense. I don't know if the Baxter gang was necessarily. I think they were. Like I think we just don't get to see as much of them, obviously. But they like the hierarchy there was interacted as well. But if there was a complaint about characters, I think I just would have wanted to see a little more of the Baxter gang, the other gang, you know what I mean? Like, and the sheriff.
Same here. Like the villains are threatening. Like all the men are scary. I'm all for that. But like, I don't think these characters were written to be 3-dimensional. I purely, in my opinion, I think they do come across as a bit cowboy henchmen for the sake of being henchmen. Like I've seen this trope done before too much, so I'm not really getting anything 3-dimensional out of them. But I think what may add some complexity to them, more than just being stock standard characters of cowboy villains, is through their performances. I think their performance actually does a lot more work than the script itself, because you can see like the way that they're reacting to Clint and also reacting to the town around them. That kind of adds a little bit more layers than what the script gives them.
Yes and no. I think I understand like that point of view and like why you'd think that, but I think as well, I think the screenplay doesn't get in the way at the same time. I think the screenplay is well written in that sense of like, I think it was written in mind with like those dimensions to those characters, but I think it was smart enough not to delve too much into it or like delve too much into exposition, or, you know, it was more focused on the relationships and whatnot. And so I think, yeah, the performance is elevated, but I think it was still, when the screenplay screenplay was written, in my opinion, I think it still had all of that in mind. Because on paper, if it was the screenplay, if the screenplay didn't have that, I don't think the film would necessarily be better off for it. Like, I think, because like I said, this is such a simple premise. Like, and there's nothing in this movie that happens that is kind of like out of this world or like huge twists and turns. Not saying that it's not interesting. It's just when you look at like a stereotypical beginning, middle, and end, it just kind of does that. You know what I mean? Like this movie just...
And maybe that's my issue with it.
Maybe.
Yeah, in 2020, watching this Western, it's kind of the same thing with like other pioneering films that we've seen. Because it pioneers it and it invents all these tropes, and we've seen it copied endlessly in the decades since. Seeing this story doesn't really add anything to an experience I would get from a Western in 2020.
Sure. I guess my point is like, I'd agree with that. I think the thing that kind of sets this apart is obviously for me just the characters. I think the characters were done really well.
See, I so disagree on all that. I like Clint, but the rest, like, especially like just after seeing like 3 seasons of Westworld and like watching Godless on Netflix and seeing all the Western movies that have come out since, like, all these characters I've seen done elsewhere and better, frankly.
I don't know if I've necessarily seen these characters. Yeah, I've seen like aspects of them, but like I just like the characters in this movie. Like I like the Brothers gang. Like as much as I said I wanted to see more of the Baxters, I think I wanted to see more of them because I liked them and I liked the matriarch that is the mother in that family. I like the grave digger.
I like him, yeah.
I like the tavern owner as well. I like that he's kind of like the...
Yeah. But they're all cliche, aren't they? Like, do they go anything outside beyond their character tropes? Like,
I don't know. Like, I think for instance, like that tavern, the tavern owner, like I think he's an interesting guy. I think he's interesting that he's just kind of like too scared, or like I don't know, even if it is too scared. I think he's just kind of stuck in the way that this town is. I think the stereotypical characters for me would probably be the gravedigger to a certain extent, but then again, no, because there's actions that he has like later on in the movie that...
See, I thought he'd be the least stereotypical out of all of them.
Really?
Because he's like kind of also the comic relief for a lot of it as well. And he's also kind of like an Orient surrogate where he's kind of just peeping behind the action, like showing us what we're meant to see.
I think that's a stereotype. I think it's interesting to have like that side character that's kind of the gravedigger. I think that's a stereotype in itself. It's his actions later on in the movie that I think are more interesting. I think the stereotypes actually go to... There's a subplot in this featuring a family that I think they're a bit...
Jeez.
They're out of all the characters in this movie, they're the ones that I don't think are fleshed out really at all. Which is a shame.
Christ, that child pissed me off, Brenton. Like, which is no surprise. Like,
it was the trio of them though. Like, obviously the kid stands out because it's a fucking kid, and he has some... There's moments in this that you're just like, all right, fine.
But he's one of those like little boys who's like 5 or 6 years old who's so fucking attached to his mother and like can't stand 3 seconds away from them.
He wasn't insulting though. Like there's child performances that are really insulting, and he wasn't insulting. It was more like I hated the screenplay that this kid couldn't work out, given that he'd grown up in this town, that there was like life and...
he should know what's going on by this point. None of this is news to him.
There was I get he's young, but there's like literal life and death consequences that are happening in this town like every day by the sounds of things. And people die like every day, you know? Like it's not a good time.
And he's just screaming mummy. Like I was waiting for Clint Eastwood to shoot him. I'm just like, come on, mate. Like no one's going to hold you responsible.
The most interesting character, again, that we haven't really talked about, we've spoken about a bit, is Clint Eastwood. He's the man with no name. And like...
Yeah, and he's great, isn't he?
He's so good. Like Clint is just like fantastic. It's the performance of the film. I like that he rides that line of like, you're not really sure what's going on with him at first, or like, you know, where his intentions lie. And then as things like start to become a bit more fleshed out and you kind of have an idea, and the film doesn't necessarily answer the questions you have about him, which I like.
And it's good we got 2 more movies with him to kind of explore
Exactly.
That. Yeah.
You can infer, like I can infer things on him, what I think of this character now, but like at the same time, if the next 2 movies went against what I thought, it would still make sense.
Yeah.
Which is fun. Like,
yeah,
so
it is really fun.
You walk out of the movie and you go, I kind of want to watch it again, and like, you know, see this character again and see, you know, what I think of some scenes and like what's going on.
Yeah.
Like I'd love to watch the first 20 minutes of this movie again.
Oh,
like, right now.
There's
and
scenes
just,
in here that are extraordinary, and like Clint's lines in this movie are just so good because he doesn't speak that much, but like when he does, he's actually quite funny for a lot of the movie as well.
Totally.
And I'm like, I so get around him as well, and it's great seeing this performance because I realize how many lead Hollywood actors have stolen from it. Like so many, and obviously the biggest culprit I think is Hugh Jackman.
How much Wolverine was in this? You know what I mean?
Christ.
Like how much like early Hugh Jackman Wolverine was in this? It was
Hugh Jackman just copy pasted Command C Command V. That's exactly what he did. Like, and it even looks like Clint a little bit. Like
he does.
Yeah,
he does. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I was sitting here and I was going, if X-Men was made back in the day, the prime candidate would be Clint.
Yeah.
Like for goodness sake. Like, there's a part in this where he literally looks like Logan from Logan. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, it's
he does. And you're just like, geez, like, be great. Oh, Wolverine versus Man with No Name. Now, there's a fight I want to see. Like,
there is a fight I want to see.
there we
Definitely.
go. You know, as well, he reminded me of, I don't know why this struck me, but maybe because the movie's recent, Leo from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. For some reason, I saw a little bit of that as well. Like when Leo pretends to be the cowboy. I kind of wished Leo's cowboy character was in this movie. Like,
yeah, it'd be interesting. Hey,
just like the little girl goes up to Clint and is like, that's the best fucking acting ever.
he would fit into this town, that guy, that character, for sure.
I kind of want to see this movie and just have Leo shout out the word like line. Just see him freeze on the spot. Like, it'd be
there was
great.
a scene in here as well where they were like eating, a character was eating like a stew or something, like they do in that scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in the tavern.
Yeah.
And I had major flashbacks to that because it was the same, like it was a similar like wooden spoon and like a bowl that was kind of like half a plate, half a bowl kind of thing. You know what I mean? And then I was sitting there watching it, and I should have brought this up in spoilers really, but let's just talk about it now because we brought it up. It's not really a spoiler. I'm talking about a scene where someone eats something from a bowl.
Yeah, it's fine.
But like the logistics, I was thinking of like in the period of like eating that, I was like, that would just like, given like today's utensils and what we use, you know, like going back to like Western towns, you know, which are on the frontier or whatever, that like don't have like the means to like have like amazing silverware or whatever. They're just like literally like a wooden block or like a wooden spoon.
Yeah, it's really shitty. Like if you bite on the spoon, like you can chomp your teeth. Like,
yeah,
it just looks so unpleasant.
I was just like, that would suck. And then like you're trying to like
it would
get all
suck.
you're trying hey,
You got it.
You're trying to like eat out of the bowl and like get all the food off the fucking bowl. Like, you know when like there's like sauce left in the bowl and you just want to get it, and like the spoon's really good at like scooping around the side of the bowl and like putting it in your mouth, but like you don't have that spoon, so you're fucking using your stick and you have to like lick your stick.
I'm just trying to imagine you, Brenton, at like some like gourmet restaurant where they give you wooden cutlery to be different, and you're like, for fuck's sake, you just like flip the table. You're like, I can't eat with this.
I think there's a business venture here. I think we should open like a traditional period set, like Wild West restaurant where we just.
Do you remember that? This will be a fun little tangent. Do you remember in year 5, Brenton, when you and I went to like that outback bush experience?
We had Colonial Day.
Yeah, that's right.
and
because we've done this before.
We had to go out for the day. We went out. We were
like 10
random
years
ass
old.
property, and it was this random business, and they did these like colonial days, and
like late 19th century outback Australia. Like they recreated this like outside the Gold Coast.
I'll never forget that. All right, I'm gonna tell a story. So that
Here
day
we
we had to. I don't know if you remember this, dude, but the whole grade went out to this area, and it was like by a creek basically, and they were like, all right, we're gonna do like a role play scenario.
Yeah, the Eureka Stockade, like find the gold nuggets. Yeah, which by the way, I found fuck all gold in that river. Just want to point out, I came home with nothing.
Same, but in this role play, I don't know if you remember, like people from the crowd were.
That's right. We all had like jobs to do. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, so the majority of people were watching, and I was chosen because I put up my hand because I was really excited, and I got chosen to be like an alcohol smuggler or something. Like I was there illegally with like alcohol to like take advantage of the people that had just won gold and like see if I could like earn some gold by like selling illegal wares.
What's the lesson here for children?
I don't know. But it was a bunch of people. So there was law enforcers that were there. And I remember specifically there was a guy in our grade who I'm going to shout out who was probably never going to listen to this in their life. And I hope he's going well. But Liam Brennan was cast as this police officer, right?
Jesus.
He's given a rifle, I think, and he's got it slung over his shoulder and he's got his uniform or whatever.
I can so see that.
I was told to hang out with this tent, like behind these reeds basically, and wait till like I heard Eureka and then come out and try and take advantage of the situation. So everyone's watching this. It's been going on for like 10 minutes and then I rock up, like I hear Eureka and someone found gold, and so I rock up and everyone's watching me, and I start to like swindle and like offer alcohol or whatever. Were you in this, by the way?
Yeah, I was in this. I was just like a random bystander. I
vaguely remember your face in this, like for some reason.
I don't think I had an actual role. I think I was just standing about.
So I start like sweet talking everyone, and I start like giving out the wares, giving out bottles or whatever, and I get a little bit of gold, like I get a few like fucking bits of gold, and then suddenly everyone's like, the law's coming, and then like I hear this whistle, and these cops are running over.
Also played by 10-year-old children.
So again, like this is the thing, we're all 10-year-olds, so I've forgotten by this point that what I'm actually doing is illegal. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't know because there was other illegal shit going on as well, and I for some reason like I just hadn't noted that like selling alcohol, which because you're a kid, you're like, well, there's bottle stores. Like I can't imagine why
this prohibition wasn't a thing.
Yeah, like like I was just like I'm fine. So like a few people bolt, and I just like hung there for a bit, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna stand here and I'll ask the police officer, and so Liam Brennan, this is the thing, Liam Brennan comes up to me. And I'll never forget it. He comes up to me and goes, oh, hey, what are you doing here? Like, what have you got there? And I'm like, oh, these are my wares, basically. Like, I got some alcohol. I was actually out here, like, selling to everyone. Do you want some? Which is clearly illegal. But like I said, at this stage, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know that this is illegal.
Have some booze, child.
Everyone went quiet for a moment, and Liam Brennan just looked at me, and he literally just, like, flabbergasted, just went, that's illegal, and then like starts like going for his rifle, and I was like, feck. So I threw my bottles on the ground. Some of them smashed as well. Like I broke like some of the props that these people had given. Right. Why they'd give us glass bottles when we're like 10-year-olds though was like their fault anyway. So like I just bolt out of there. I bolt back up to my tent, and
that's
I'm like,
amazing. It'd be so funny if you just like bolt out of the reenactment, like you run out of Westworld. You just keep running for the highway. like quick, someone tackle Brenton.
And I remember I ran and they couldn't find me, and I was like, feck. And then like they were like, all right, it's over now. And I came out and I still got my like 3 bits of gold or whatever I got. And I was like, hey. And Liam Brennan was like, how did you not realize what you were doing was wrong? You should have run away. Like first of all. And I was like, hey man.
That one kid who takes like the thing too seriously. Like,
that was exactly it. And I remember like when he said that's illegal, like there was before he said that, everyone in the crowd had like knew what I was doing when I was illegal, except me. So everyone was laughing. And I remember being so embarrassed, just being like, how the fuck did I remember every single detail about this scenario? Everyone else is like, what the rules were, except my own. And I walked away from that feeling super embarrassed, but super good because I still got away with it.
Oh.
What can I say, guys?
What a good time, Brenton. You'd fit well in a fistful of dollars, I tell you what. 10-year-old you would do well in the West.
My understanding is that there's like a bunch of like places like this, like especially in the United States, of people.
Oh, would you do it?
I don't know, but this is what I was going to bring up, like, because I know that there's like Civil War battle reenactments and things like that. Do you reckon we should just like one day go out and like do like a Wild West town reenactment?
As Australians, they do like the Eureka Stockade reenactments. Like they do like that's our version of it here in this country. So like, but are you saying would you go over to America for some reason, just rock up like
do a Wild West one?
Do like Quentin's Australian, just like just rock up. Look there, mate. There's a civil war going on in this country.
Who would we play, Nathan?
You know what? I kind of want to play the village fool, like the drunken idiot who kind of hangs around like the saloon. Like I got a bottle in the hand. I'm picking fights for no reason. I can see you kind of cross-dressing like Will Smith and just being the dame of like.
I was considering 2 things. Maybe I'm the dame, and then like if I wasn't allowed to do that, I'd be that guy that's in the inn or in the tavern or whatever, like who plays the piano, and it's just like,
like as the violence breaks out, you like whip up a tune, like.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm just there like having a good old time.
I can see us having fun like that, Brenton, Like you and me in like, 1800s America being like, we should talk about cinema. And you're like, what's that, son of Jim? Well, it hasn't been invented yet, but we should do it at some point.
Yeah, like I'm playing the piano and like you're the drunk just like slung over my shoulder like trying to sing along.
Oh, what a good time, Brenton. I can see us doing that, Oh,
yeah, we should do it.
We should do it. Let's rate this movie.
Let's do it.
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
So Nathan, I'm giving this a thumbs up. I think, in fact, this is what I think.
Tell us what you think, Brenton.
Obviously, this movie is like supremely well made. It's made by one of the best directors who ever walked this earth. It's worth watching for that alone. But if you're going to put on a movie on a Thursday night, this is just prime viewing. It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point. There's enough meat in here that will get you hooked, I feel. There's some great scenes, like Nathan said, that we haven't really even spoken about that we're going to talk about.
Because we can't spoil them. And there are great scenes, You should watch the scenes on YouTube at least.
Yeah, exactly. So just know that there's some thrilling moments in this. There's some great characters. I think it's definitely worth a watch. And if this is the start of the trilogy, mate, if everything stays to this like standard,
apparently it gets better and better as we go.
Wow,
which is great to hear.
If that's true, mate, we could be watching, which I've heard this called like one of the best trilogies ever made. So I hope that's the case. But what a great start. So yeah, big thumbs up for me.
Brenton, I'm giving this a thumbs down.
Are you actually?
I'm actually doing that. Yeah.
Wow. Why?
Well, yeah, 1, I think this gets better. And 2, I just don't think narratively there's, I'm a big sucker for story. And I don't think today there's like, you can get much of a story from this. Like, I've seen it done better elsewhere. I could list a billion other westerns you could watch instead of this, including the 2 sequels, which I think are going to be lifting this up. But honestly, like, it's hard we're doing this actually not as a trilogy and not talking about, you know, more dollars and then Good, Bad, Ugly together. Because I feel like I want, like, Future Me's going to reference them over this. But I just know right now, like, I can't. There are great scenes. You got to at least YouTube the scenes, in my opinion. But I think outside that, I've seen this stock standard and I've seen this done better elsewhere.
I think there's merit in a movie that is a simple premise that is kind of expertly told. So, like, I get that you're, like, big on, like, the plot, you're big on the story, but at the same time, I just go, like...
But today it's derivative, because I've seen everyone else copy it and do it better.
I don't know if derivative's the word. Like, I get...
Well, no, because everyone's copying this. It's, like, the other way around, but, like, yeah.
I get your point, but there's something about this that I think that people can latch onto. I don't think it's derivative. I think it's, like I said at the start, it's a simple story, but it's supremely well told, and because of that, like, it elevates it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but I disagree. I don't think it was. That's my opinion.
That's fine. That's our opinions.
Yeah, but I can still Brenton's hand's still twitching towards his gun. Like, no, Brenton.
Yeah.
We're not going to do a draw now.
The standoff's happening. It's like my 6-shooters. Yeah. By the way, 6-shooter or rifle?
Oh, 6-shooter easily.
Yeah. What are you carrying? Yeah. Okay.
What do you choose? Did you get Red Dead parallels from this? Like, did you, like, I know that weapon. Like,
maybe we can talk about that later on in a special
section. Oh, maybe we should. Actually, yeah, we should. What am I saying? Let's spoil this. You spoiled it.
What?
The movie.
Oh. So straight up, when this movie starts, I'm going from the top, Nathan. This movie starts...
Do you want to talk about the credits? Or like...
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to talk about. Like, it starts...
there we go.
And this song...
Best opening credits.
It's the opening credits are just awesome. This song is just fucking awesome. In fact, I was watching this movie and my sister came into the room, right? Courtney came into the room and goes, "What's this song?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm watching A Fistful of Dollars. You know, the Man with No Name trilogy? It's the first movie in it." And she went, "Oh, cool. Groovy," and then left. And I was like, it is groovy, Courtney. Like, thank you for that. So you got this kind of like red title screen, and then like everything's coming up in black. You know, you've got the silhouettes of the horses and the cowboys riding the horses and whatnot.
It's so cool. It's like something you'd see in a museum. Like, it's awesome, like art in general.
It's great. It gets you right in the mood. And then we open, you know, on this like landscape. We see the Man with No Name. We see him go into the well. We watch this like random scenario with that subplot, which I wasn't a huge fan of.
Yeah.
Of like the son trying to get into the gang.
Oh, like, shut up, kid. Like, oh.
And he gets in, he climbs in through the window, and then they throw him out and they shoot at his feet. And I was like, oh.
I'm like, Jesus, this is like a 6-year-old child. What are you doing? Is he just PJs the whole movie as well? I think he's wearing like the one set of yellow PJs the whole time.
Yeah, I think so. I don't look, to be fair, like, people in this era, I don't think they had many sets of clothes.
No, obviously not. But even then, you still have like outdoor clothes and then like an undershirt for pajamas, you know? Like,
but like my understanding is like people wore the their pajamas, their undershirts or whatever, like all the time. Like, as you see, like when they undress after that.
Yeah. But did all those guys have like pink pajamas or something like that? Like, there's a bunch
they all? This is the question I had about that.
Did someone fuck up the laundry bill? Like,
well, it was interesting because I was like, wait, is that like a uniform? Like, that's their actual uniform? Is that they all wear this like same set of like undergarments or whatever? And I was like, by the way, like, how funny is it? Like those onesie that they used to have the flap. You'd think the flap would be at the front. You know what I mean? So they had ease of access to do a pee.
Do they have to help each other get undressed then? I've never understood that. Like,
I never understood. Like, my understanding was that the flap was at the back so you could do a dump easily. You know what I mean? Like,
just like there's a shot of like Clint Eastwood on like the toilet, just being like, "Oh, this is convenient."
Otherwise, why else is it there?
It's so weird. It's like what you see on like baby dolls, like what they're dressed in, like the little like button-up thing you do on the back. I'm like, are these all like toddlers? Like, what's going on here? So they just outgrow like what they were wearing. Oh, totally. But near the start, you get probably one of the best scenes of the movie, and it's where we first meet like the coffin guy, and like Clint says to him, "Get 3 coffins ready," and you're like, "Oh, here we go." And then Clint Eastwood goes up to the guys who are beautifully framed, like the 3 kind of guys just sitting there on like the fence.
Correction, 4 guys.
Pardon me,
sitting
the
on the
4
fence.
men. Pardonnez-moi.
Sorry, I'm setting you up.
And there's a great. It reminds me of when he did like the Dirty Harry monologue where he's got his bloody cheeseburger. Like he's just like, "Oh, you're doing some tomfoolery with me, but my mule, ooh, he doesn't get it." And you're like, yeah, Clint Eastwood. He's so fucking badass.
I love when he's all like, in fact, like, if you apologize to my mule, I'm sure he'd be fine and understand what was actually going on.
It's such good banter. Fuck, that's good banter.
And then they all laugh at him, but then they all know it's odd. And then again, you have like those moments where it's like the standoff happens, everyone's there, everyone.
And the soundtrack's doing its job. Like,
yep, it's great. And he takes out the 4 guys, and Nathan, you finish off this. Yeah, just takes them all out, and you're just like, feck, he did it, you know.
I know. I do love that style of shooting where they kind of just like backhands like his gun, and then all the bullets fly.
Well, they had to because you had to like cock it for each like shot that you took with those things. I've never shot a weapon in my life, but like if you were to...
I have.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. Did I tell you that story? I went to Texas and I did like shooting with my dad.
Did you shoot a revolver?
I didn't shoot a revolver. I don't think I'd shoot a revolver in Texas. We went to like this, we're in Dallas for the day, like on an American trip, and my mother and sister were like, oh, we're just going to go shopping and like, you know, Fort Worth or something. And Dad were like, fuck that. We're in Texas. Like, let's go shooting. So we went to like this firing range, and then we got like, they had every gun. Like, they were going to let us like hold an AK if we wanted to. We're like, maybe not. we're like, instead we got a pistol, and then I forget what the other one was. It was like a bigger version of a pistol. Yeah, they had like a little like flat, like an A3 shoot of a zombie that like dangled back, and you like had to shoot it in the head. It's pretty cool.
Fun times. How are you as a shot? Were you as good as Clint?
You know what? This is just personal opinion. I picked up the gun and I hated it. I was just like, it was like that young left thing in me where I'm like, oh, we shouldn't be holding weapons. I'm like, oh, this is too powerful for man. Like all that kind of shit. But then I start firing it and I'm like, this feels pretty good. And I'm like, ooh. And then I'm like shooting the zombie and I'm like, the power. It was like that kind of thing.
Yeah, you started to understand. You were like, ooh, yeah. I'm getting the itch. And then you bought the AK-47, as we both know.
oh, here we go, mate. You bloody know it. It's like when Joe Exotic is around his tigers. It's like you feel that power, and you're just like, oh, I gotta bloody get that around me.
That bitch, Carol Baskin.
You so see why the culture comes hand in hand. So I understand the shooting part of it. So I can see why Clint. That's the funny thing, because when I was like shooting it, I was grinning like an idiot. But like Clint, he just has like this straight face as he does it the whole time, and he like walks past the old man. He's like, make that 4, and you're like, ooh.
Yeah, it's that thing about the character which I like, is that like he doesn't enjoy necessarily what he does. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, why is this guy by himself? Like, how the fuck did he end up out here? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many questions I have about him. And I love him. Like, I just think he's a great character in that sense, because there's so many questions you have about him. And there's so much...
Yeah. I hope we don't get too many answers as well later on.
Yes and no. I kind of want some answers, but I don't want everything answered. Like, I think...
I don't want them to bloody solo a Star Wars story, you know what I mean?
Well, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like in this, like, obviously the filmmakers know those answers, I think. Like, I think they've written this character intentionally in that sense, which I'm fine with. As long as there's the answers that are there, it doesn't have to feed them to me or whatever. As long as they're there, as long as, like, you don't write a character that literally has nothing and they're like, we're not going to answer anything, so the audience just comes up with their own answers. They'll like their answers because they come up with them, you know what I mean? Because they're their own thing. Yeah. Your idea is better than their idea, so they just, like, don't put the effort in.
We don't want to know what Anakin Skywalker was like in the Clone Wars. We can just imagine it when he and Obi-Wan used to be friends, you know?
True, but there's a good story there if the answers are there. And, I mean, like, when you think about, like, those prequels, like, the idea is pretty good. Like, the idea is pretty good.
Oh, yeah. The foundation's there. I'm all for it.
Yeah, like, it was all there.
Like a epic about the fall of the Roman Empire with, like, this warrior in the center of it. All for that.
And it's just the execution was a bit sloppy.
Just a bit sloppy.
It's a bit sloppy.
You know, it wasn't bad execution. Some of the violence in this movie, Brenton, which I maybe have some issue with. Brenton. Case in point. How the fuck, when that man was like shooting a minigun at like a whole field full of men on their horses, while only the men hit?
This is true. There would be serious horse carnage if that was to actually go down.
Oh, all the horses are just running about, and like this guy is not aiming particularly with his minigun. He's kind of just like blazing it about. Like, how the fuck are there not dead horses everywhere?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not like those miniguns were really that accurate either. So like you couldn't feasibly do it.
See how many bloody holes were in it?
Yeah.
There was like 20. I'm like, they're not all bloody Bullseye from Toy Story. They should just be like lying dead.
Mate, what a scene though, like when like there's like that handoff that happens and then suddenly like the minigun, and I knew the minigun was going to be in one of those carts. I was like,
you're like, yeah.
There is going to be a Gatling gun in one of those carts and they're just going to go to town. And they do.
They do, and it is beautiful. Yeah. Although, to be honest with you, my favorite scene, as far as the violence goes, was actually when Clint gets the sword and he like throws it into that guy. Yeah. And you're like, whoa! And also, it's probably the most bloody of the scenes. Like, you really see that guy, like, get the blood spit out of him.
Totally.
Yeah.
Speaking of the blood was an interesting color. Like, it wasn't really realistic. Geez. And obviously, like, it's made, like, it's an old movie, so I understand it.
It's the spaghetti.
Probably for the time, it was, like, probably pretty bloody violent, for a movie coming out in this
Oh,
era.
yeah.
Like to see like that amount of, let's say, gore, I say with quotation marks.
See, we're
because,
too used to Tarantino and like Game of Thrones and that kind of shit. Like, we're too immune to all this.
We've seen some serious shit, but at the time, like you can imagine that like seeing that much red, orangey red, I'd say, but like seeing that much red would like make people go, holy shit, like.
Tell you what, there was a lot of blood when that guy gets crushed by the barrel.
Oh my gosh, what a
Jesus.
moment, hey? I gotta say, I wasn't expecting that.
No, me neither. And it comes out of nowhere. And you also see the whole thing roll down. I don't know how the fuck they staged it because it looks legit. Where like you see the barrel roll down and this guy like you see where the head hits the wall and there's this huge splatter of blood. You're like, whoa!
That was actually one of my favorite sequences in the film was like when he escaped that precinct, like in the sense of like, because he gets the shit beaten out of him.
He
like,
looks horrendous. He looks like bloody, what's the monster from Goonies? He looks like him.
Oh, Sloth.
Yeah, he looks like a bit like Sloth the way he's been beaten up.
But, like he goes through all that punishment, and this is what you like about protagonists that like find the will to keep going. But at the same time, man, like he's really beaten up. And I like that the film like takes the moment to be like, yeah, this guy's like a good with a 6-shooter, but he's not invincible. He's still a man. You know what I mean? Like it didn't pussyfooted in that sense necessarily. Like a lot of movies can tend to like have their Western heroes and they're just invincible for the sake of it, and you just think, oh, they're really cool. But that made him cooler, in my opinion.
It did
that
make
made
him
him
cooler.
even cooler.
And you know what? He has a beautiful haircut. This film. I'm like, damn, I want that haircut.
I do too. My hair's that length as well.
I know you could actually do it now if you want to. Like,
I feel like it'd be a bit too mullety in today's era, though. Like, you know what I mean?
Also, he's got the facial hair to pull it off as well. He's got that kind of light beard going on. So and also he's the only man alive who could probably make a poncho look cool.
That's a cool fucking poncho. But continue.
But
we'll talk about that in a second.
Oh yeah, we will. But like, I feel like with that haircut, he starts off like looking like the coolest motherfucker alive. But when he's beaten up, like his hair's like kind of all flailing about, so you can tell like they don't treat him well.
I love the poncho. How every time he like goes into a standoff, that he just flicks up the front of it, and it just goes over his shoulder,
and it like hangs loose, and you're just like, God, he looks so fucking cool. I knew if I was wearing a poncho, I'd look like a fucking idiot.
When I see those ponchos, I can see why they tried to make the poncho cool in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
I was literally about to bring that up. Well done. And they look terrible in that game. Like, what the fuck does Cal have a poncho?
They do.
Oh.
There was one I kind of liked. There was like a black and red one that was like kind of faded. But like all the ones that had like the lycra cloth and shit like that.
This off. Unless you're Clint Eastwood, you can't pull this shit off.
Exactly. Like there was some plastic looking ones in that game as well. And I was just like, ugh. And you know what? The other thing as well is like, like as a Western star, like to pull off a poncho is like one thing, but to be a Jedi and pull off a poncho, like there's been a couple ponchos in Star Wars, such as Luke's in New Hope and Qui-Gon's in fucking. But like honestly, when you dress up as someone for Halloween, who the hell wears the poncho from Star Wars? You know what I mean?
No one. Oh,
I gotta say though that like. The Man with No Name is a pretty good idea for a costume for Halloween.
Oh yeah, you see those all the
Hell
time.
Yeah.
Like
Glenn's
bloody hanging about when Halloween hits. So and you know what? Speaking of him, I like that we find out that the wife of the couple reminds him of a previous lover. We get a hint. We get a hint to finally why he's doing it. And that's all we get. We don't get any sad backstory of him like sitting around a campfire going, "Oh, this dame this one time." It's just like, I had a girl, you're a girl. Let's do this. That's all you get.
I love that scene where he lets them go and he saves, because it's the only time in the movie that he just puts everything aside and he goes into that place, and it's that machete scene. So when he just shoots up shop, kills all those guys and gets her out of there, gets the husband, gets the kid, and goes, "Here's some money. Here's the money. Get the fuck out of here." And you're like, oh, okay. So like, why are you really here then, Clint? Like, what's going on?
And then Clint turns towards the camera and he's like, "I have a character motivation."
Totally. And it's set up so well because it's that scene at the start, which I was alluding to, when he sees the kid like go through the window and get thrown out and get shot at their feet. That you can see like he makes a decision there, and I think it's that he's gonna get that kid out. You know what I mean? That he's gonna get that. He's gonna get them out and get them away.
And he does. Getting good on him for it. Can we talk about the end? Because there's so many things I love about the ending. One is like his entrance, where you see that smoke in the distance, and then he kind of walks out of it, and the music soars, and you're like, "Oh, here we go."
What I love about that though is that like he gets given a stick of dynamite, right? Like he gets given a stick of dynamite, and you're like, "Oh, what the hell is he going to blow up with that?" And he uses it just for a cool entrance.
I love it. He's just like, no, this is just going to look really cool. Because even in universe, it doesn't make much sense. Even the fact he just wants a cool smoky entrance. Like,
yeah. He's getting the element of surprise. He's getting the element of fear, you know what I mean?
yeah, and he's just taking the bullets, you know, he's just
what a
and like
moment.
they're all petrified and they're like, which by the way, like it's amazing that that armor did work and they didn't actually just shoot him in the hand or leg or anywhere else.
Which is set up earlier that the bullets won't go through, but exactly, like if I was shooting to kill someone and I'd shot them 3 times in the heart, I would probably then aim for the head. I don't know. I'd probably take.
Well, that's the thing.
I'd probably take Thanos' advice and aim for the head.
Well, in that scene, they keep on. Clint Eastwood keeps on saying the heart, aim for the heart, and I just kept on getting Osborne flashes. Like, did you think that too? When he kept on saying it, he's like the heart. Don't forget the heart, and I'm like, oh, where's Norman when you need him?
You know what? You could probably make the argument that Sam Raimi was so influenced by the Man with No Name trilogy that he added a lot of that into the Spider-Man trilogy.
Well, maybe because in the Spider-Man movies, it really doesn't make much sense why he says that. When like Mirror, like Willem Dafoe's like, the heart, go for the heart. Like, there's no real reason he should in that movie.
No, just kill the guy. Like, in fact,
so it probably was a flashback to this.
In fact, like, those moments are like the undoing of the villain. Like, you know, in both Spider-Man 1 and 3, you know, he goes for the heart, he takes Mary Jane, you know, he goes for Aunt May, and then next thing you know, like, Peter's pissed, man. And also, like, it tells Peter that, like, he knows who he is. And same with Harry. Like, the same shit happens with Harry. Harry would still have a face that was intact by the end of that movie if he didn't go for the heart.
Oh, Harry, you fucking idiot.
If he just, like, invited Peter over to his place, pretended to be his friend for a little while again, play some basketball, and then just, like, fucking knife the fucker.
But he doesn't. He's an idiot. Do you wanna bloody do some special segments?
Yeah, dude. Let's get into it.
Special segment. Ooh, so special. Brenton, what do you think was the best and worst beard of this movie?
Mate, I added this segment because if there's a film that we needed to talk about beards, it's probably this one.
Oh boy. You go to a barber with screenshots from this movie and you say, do this. Like,
and you know what screenshot I'm taking in? We kind of discussed it before if I'm going for the best beard.
Oh, is it Clint?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh.
The soft beard, light beard going into the hair, like it's just perfect.
It's the right level of scruff. It's like it's not a beard, it's just like scruff. Yeah. It's like maybe like 3 days worth of growth and it's just so fucking cool. Like,
it's so good looking, man. Like good on them. Like I feel like that is just a good look. You know what I mean? Like any man, any person would be proud to have that on their face.
Brenton's just like gluing like strands of hair on his chin. Like, not now, Brenton. What about the worst? Did anyone have a pretty shit one this movie?
Okay, here we go. I think that the shittest one, there's a scene basically where Clint Eastwood comes back from setting up basically he shot up that thing, he's sent the family on the way and he returns and he thinks he's gotten away with it and he goes back to his room and one of the brothers is lying in the bed and it's like the main brother that's got like that handlebar mustache.
Oh yeah, Jesus.
And in that close-up shot, you really see it, and it just looks like the most disgusting thing.
Oh.
I said that like anyone would be proud to have what Clint's got on his face, to have that on their face. If someone had that on their face, like the anxiety and the embarrassment that person must feel, I do feel for them in a certain sense, but like at the same time, it's a life choice to put that thing on your face. It just looks... Do you know what I'm talking about?
I've seen good handlebar ones before. Like, you can pull it off. It's just this fucker, he just has no clue. like maybe he just like, did they have barbers back then? I presume they just cut their own hair. So like, he's just trying to mimic someone he saw one time.
Yeah.
He just fucks it up and like, no one really wants to mention it.
Yeah, he saw Joe Exotic one day and he was like, that's what I want.
Oh dear God, don't put that in my head, Brenton. Would this be a good theme park ride, Brenton?
Oh, mate, we've already been on this theme park ride. It's called the Wild Wild West at Movie World, and it's great. I love Wild West, like Western theme.
Also, they play the Westerns in the queue line. Like, they got the little TVs. Like, it's great.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like anything Western themed is just automatically cool. You know what I mean? Like I love, like I've been on a few like Western theme park rides. Like think like
oh yeah, we've all been around the block.
Thunder Mountain Railroad, like in Disneyland. Like
that's one of my favorites too. That runaway train is fucking incredible. I love it.
Hell yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. The Wild Wild West at Movie World's classic.
You could argue the Looney Tunes roller coaster.
You definitely could. But anything that takes place in that area like is just prime for like a theme park ride or time for like a theme park, even just a section of a theme park that's a Western theme.
Especially because like the old bullet sound effect of like the pew and like the kind of ricochet. It's great when you're on a little boat on a theme park ride, hearing that around you. Like the sound design's really great.
Totally, yeah, and there's so much you can do with it as well.
Yeah,
that's it. Like minecart rides, like when you go through like
don't get me started on a bloody minecart ride, Brenton.
Is
this our Lego episode again?
Oh, don't get me started.
Here we go.
But yeah, absolutely, this would work as a theme park ride. I feel like it'd be cool. Like, what would be really cool is if it was like the cart you were in, like the roller coaster thing you were sitting in was like one of the coffins from that.
Have
guy.
you got Clinton there with you? Like he's like driving it, or
yeah, sure, why not? But yeah, like sitting in the coffin and just like hanging out and like
that'd be
the river.
great.
Yeah,
no, the cart is a coffin, but on wheels.
Yeah,
like
totally.
That'd be great. But Brenton, the most pertinent question for you, especially because I haven't played these games, would this work as a video game?
Again, the Western theme, but this story specifically, I think would really work, especially if you're playing as the man with no name.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's other Western video games which I'm about to talk about, but it'd be such a cool idea for a game to be like playing these two gangs against each other, basically, and you're in between.
Yeah. Which I feel like other Western video games kind of do already.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do it to death.
Let's talk about Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, because it's the most obvious one here.
Oh man,
because you're a big fan of both of them, aren't you?
Have you played them?
I played the first one, but to be honest, I didn't get around it. I'm like, I'm just fucking about on a horse for ages, just asking for different materials.
Yeah, well, look, for me, like the first one, like I don't mind it, but I don't love it. You know what I mean? Like it's not. I've never liked the GTA games or like the Rockstar games anyway. Like I've never really gotten into them. Until Red Dead Redemption 2 is where it's at. That's the one you got to play. Like it's such a good time.
So you saw Clint's weapons and you're like, oh yeah. Was there anything like you saw Red Dead directly copy like from this or like?
Oh yeah, it's so inspired by like the spaghetti western genre to begin with, but like specifically, like yeah, like
there's mocap Clint Eastwood. They brought him back.
More so the first game, but like things happen in the second game as well. There's literal plots of like you playing like gangs and like groups against one another.
Oh, there you go.
There's like the brothers in the gang, you know what I mean, and like what's going on between them as well, and like those crazy lunatics that kind of ruin plans or whatnot.
Oh,
there's a scene specifically in this when a group thinks someone has wronged them, right? Like a gang has wronged them, and they go and burn that place to the fucking ground.
Oy.
There's a scene in Red Dead Redemption 2 that's one of the best scenes in that game where that shit happens. And it's like,
awesome.
It's very eerily similar to this.
Oh, there you go.
And that was, by the way, we didn't talk about that scene. That scene was fucking dark, dude. When like,
oh yeah, and like they're surrendering, but they're just mowing them down anyway. You're like, geez, like,
and like they just like kill like that. They wipe out that whole family line, like the son, the father, and then she comes out.
Oh jeez, it's horrendous. And I don't know why, but like her particularly, it reminded me a little bit of Jennifer Jason Leigh in Hateful Eight.
Sure,
like not as crazy. I think in Hateful Eight she's a little bit more cuckoo. But like, I got some flashes.
Yeah, I really liked that character in the movie, actually. I thought she was great.
Jennifer Jason Leigh or this one?
No, this one. Well, both.
Yeah.
I like both characters. But like, her death scene was a bit questionable when she like falls into the pole.
Oh, oh no, when that guy falls over the barrel?
Yeah,
that's even weirder. I'm like, and he's kind of like smiling as he's like hungover. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, there's some physics issues in that scene is the only thing. But yeah. Also, just quickly while we're here, before we go into the next segment, how cool is like the main villain of this? How he's always like going on about his rifle and how a rifle's so much better than a 6-shooter. And then the final shootout, it's like
Clint's like, all right, you talk. Here we go.
When he tosses his gun on the ground, I was like, hell yes, let's go. And he still wins. He still wins.
Good job, Clint. And he sees the sun. I love that shot of them looking up at the sun as he dies. I'm like, oh yeah, there we go. Now there's something special. Big fan of that. All right, well, let's see what stills this movie.
It's blinding.
So, in case you have never listened to this show before, What Stills This Movie is a segment where, first of all, welcome. It's good to have you here.
Oh, finally, take a seat.
But it's a segment where Nathan or myself, or both of us together, we choose a single frame from the film we are reviewing, and we choose this frame based on whether it's cool, whether it's funny, whether it's just a good piece of cinematography, and we pop it on our social pages, which the links to are below.
There's still Brenton. Here we go.
Funnily, it's after the scene we were talking about with the house burning down, and Clint escapes and he gets put in this mine shaft, I think.
Yeah. And I could only think of one thing during this scene, Brenton.
What was that?
Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps. All I could think of was Iron Man 1 of Tony Stark being stuck in a cave.
Tony
He has to build
Stark
his own...
built this in a cave with a box of scraps.
But it is such like Jon Favreau effectively stole from this movie because
Totally.
like literally what stills this movie, he stole from this movie. And like this is the same scene of like RDJ building the Iron Man armor, but with Clint Eastwood building his own Iron Man armor.
Before we even talk about that, I think this is just a striking image on its own. Like that he's just doing, like,
him aiming up at like the bullets in the forefront. Like
he's just like wrapped up in his like poncho or whatever, and he's like defeated, and he's like shooting and at this point like we just think he's like just doing target practice or like, you know, just shooting for the sake of it. But he's seeing specifically whether he can actually shoot through this piece of metal, which he can't, which is why he then makes his Iron Man outfit and goes into battle.
I was waiting for like as Clint Eastwood rocks up the Iron Man theme to kick in, like the Akadaka, like dun 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 dun.
Or like, you know, after like, you know, he takes all those shots to the heart and like doesn't die, he's like, my turn, and he just like whips
and
out
he
a
just starts
flamethrower
shooting
and
up
starts
shot.
doing work.
Oh my god, that'd be great. That'd be amazing. Just like, or can someone just like edit it where like suddenly like the bleeding edge kind of armor kind of comes across, like it grows on Clint Eastwood, and he's suddenly in the actual Iron Man armor. And everyone's
Absolutely.
like, whoa. That'd be
So that
great.
scene in Infinity War where he like pulls the straps on his
Yeah.
poncho, and then like
And like a life jacket just suddenly pops up. Like,
yeah, and the whole thing like covers himself. Oh man, what a time.
so hey,
Hey,
let's look at this film's poster. Banter.
Yes,
Let's look at this film's poster.
but is it art?
Oh baby, here we
Oh.
go. Woo!
glorious, glorious.
This is it. Listeners, you got to look at this poster. It is one of the best posters we've ever got in this show. Links are below. It's not Clint Eastwood, for starters. I don't know who's on this poster, but it's
I don't
two
know what's
men.
going on here, but like, hey
Yeah.
man, this is a fine looking poster. What a piece of art that is.
Jeez, it's beautifully colored. It's this kind of pop 60s, like every color's bright. And there's this guy in the background kind of shooting forward towards the camera. And then this guy in the forefront's kind of arced over the behind guy as he's been hit in the chest. And it's an Italian because it's an Italian movie. Oh, we didn't even talk about that. The dubbing's horrendous, isn't it, Brenton?
Oh, it is, but like, you know, I don't blame it for that. I understand.
Yeah, what can you do?
I understand.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty bad though.
But-
It's funny in some bits. At first you're like, what? And then you're like, haha, and then you kind of like get over it, I feel.
But hey, regardless, actually, I even love that this is in Italian. Like the poster
Yeah.
works better, I think, in Italian. I think it adds to it.
I agree. I totally
Can you try and
agree.
read out that title in Italian, Brenton, with the best non-offensive accent?
Oh, no, I can't not be offensive like when I do it.
We've
but,
done terrible Italian accents on this show before. We can't do this.
But yeah, I think it's a great piece of art. Like, it's weird that Clint, I guess, isn't on the poster and it's
Yeah.
two randoms, but it captures an essence that's in this movie, so I do appreciate it.
I bloody love it, Brenton.
Something tells me as well the sequels to this are gonna also have like equally as good posters.
Yeah.
And I feel like, because I would hang this on my wall,
Hmm.
but I feel like if you got like a set of three and put the three together,
There we go. That would look
Man.
good, actually, as like side by side. I'm all for that.
heck yes.
Title talk.
Ooh, what's the title?
A fistful of dollars.
Were there I'm trying to think if anyone was actually literally holding a fistful of dollars at one point.
He did. He
Did
because
he?
remember he had his little money pouch, you know what I mean? In his fist. And he like gave it back. He got payment and he gave it back. But then
Oh,
he also
yeah, because
gave-
he handed it over to the couple. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
and he
did
gave
have
it
a
to the couple.
fistful. And I think they were $1 bills from memory. I think I did see some ones. In there.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
What are they called in America? Benjamins or whatever they are? I think I saw some of them.
Yeah, I like the title. A fistful of dollars.
Yeah, it is. Because also he's doing this for a fistful of dollars.
That's right. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. I think it's.
And this is
really
what
good.
it's worth. This is what like the violence is worth. Like, is it worth the money? There's some good questions raised by the title.
I agree. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree. And was like obviously I think the town is kind of better off by the end of this, but were the means justified, you know, by the end
Because a
of this
lot of
movie?
people die.
That's
Like,
it. Like a lot of people die.
So it'd be interesting to see if in the sequels there will be actually a few dollars more, and then it's interesting like, for the third one they didn't carry across the title. It doesn't keep up the dollars theme. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's known as the Man with No Name trilogy, but it's also known as the Dollars Trilogy. So
Yeah.
maybe there's something worked in with dollars, like maybe not in the title, but
We'll
there's
be
something-
keeping our eyes out for some dollar bills in that third one. I tell you what.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Nathan, we've held enough power. You know, you've shot your guns. Like, just put them down and pass the power to the people.
Pass it here.
What?
The power to the people.
So, A Fistful of Dollars on the tomato meter has a critical consensus of 98% with an audience score of
Boy.
91%. That's super high.
And I gave it a thumbs down.
Yeah, you're the 2% that gave it a thumbs down, Nathan. But that's okay. That's
proudly.
okay. You know, it's. I don't know if you should be proud about that, but it's your opinion, man. So stick by it. I appreciate
That's
it.
just your opinion, man. Bring back Jeff Bridges.
Absolutely.
I
Well,
tell you what, money-wise, this thing fucking swept up. It cost $200K to make, but it made like 14 million. So like, not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. In fact, I would say that's very good.
Ooh. Urban Cinephile critics, Brenton, they liked it, and they said A Fistful of Dollars may lack the mournful intensity and Shakespearean comedy of the later Leone classics, but as an action film, holds up brilliantly.
Shakespearean comedy and mournful intensity in the latter films.
Oh, that's hype, isn't it, for the sequels?
Yeah, interesting. TV Guide also gave it a thumbs up and said, though far from perfected in this film, Leone's style would mature throughout his next 2 films.
See, I think future me is going to be like, don't do bloody Fistful of Dollars. Your bloody dollars got to be later on.
Yeah, but like if my point is if you're putting this by itself, like taking it out of the trilogy and knowing that the films get better, I still think it stands on its own, which is my opinion, which I know you don't necessarily agree with.
It'll be interesting to see as well if narratively this pays off. If like we see shit in this film that actually carries on to the second and third, which I have a funny feeling it won't.
I don't think it will either.
Soon to come, Brenton. Unlike Blobbo S, our favourite critic,
Blobbo.
who gave 2.5 stars and wrote, Blobbo never liked this one. Thin plot, bad dubbing.
Oh no, Blobbo.
Thank you, Blobbo. I think we've had Blobbo once before in these reviews, and like, I bloody love it.
Blobbo is actually you, isn't it, Nathan? Like this sounds
I
exactly.
wish.
It sounds
I
exactly
wish.
like your.
But you
review.
know what? I'm glad he said thin plot because it is bloody thin, Brenton. Bad dubbing indeed.
Frederick B also gives it 2.5. Oh, sorry, gives it 3 stars. My
There
apologies. This movie is good, but is by far the worst in the Dollars Trilogy. But I still enjoyed the movie, just not as much as I hoped.
I'm with you, Frederick.
Interesting. Hey, you don't know.
No, I really don't.
You might hate the other 2 films more than this one.
Could you imagine? Yeah, for me it goes down. I end up loathing it more. Like, wait a minute. Good and bad and ugly. All I saw was ugly.
This might turn into your version of the Bond franchise on this channel.
Oh no, thank God there's only 3 of them. Jeremy B gave it 2 stars and said, one of the slowest, most boring movies I've ever seen. Lame, unbelievably boring waste of time.
Look, Jeremy, you're entitled to your opinion, but is this slow and boring, Nathan?
I think to a child, probably. And I think he looks like a child in his photo, so that might be why. Like, kids shouldn't watch this. Kids wouldn't get that much out of it.
But after the first 20 minutes of this, I actually had the thought while watching this, which was like, as a 10-year-old watching this, would I enjoy it? And I came to the...
Eureka Stockade Brenton. He comes back home, puts on the DVD.
I came to the conclusion that I would.
Yeah, but you watched a bunch of shit as a kid, so you're hardly one to talk. Like,
True, but like I just think there's enough in this that like yes, it's slower paced than the fucking MCU movies. I get it, but I like that about it, and I think like as a kid, I really would have liked this. And yeah, maybe I'm not the best frame of reference, but and it'd be interesting to hear what kids today thought of it. But yeah, I think there's enough there that kids could get into.
I would not recommend this for a child personally, but you know, you do you. You know, parents, you be the better judgment.
Oh, I don't mean young children. I mean like probably...
They'll see the toddler wanting his mother and they'll be like, that was me.
I'd say the earliest they could watch this would be 11.
Nah, I'm saying 15 over.
Okay.
There we go. Middle ground. We'll go 13. We'll leave it there.
Sure, yeah.
There we go. And lastly, Jackson Connolly wrote on YouTube, you should have gone for the head. Bang.
Hey, I didn't even mean to do it, but I made this joke before.
I heard that and I'm like, bloody Brenton jumping on the Thanos bandwagon. He's not wrong though.
He's not wrong. He should have gone for the head. But hey, then we'd only have one film, you know, and we wouldn't have the trilogy.
So join us listeners next week, because that was A Fistful of Dollars, and soon we'll have some more dollars.
Oh, yes, we hope we will. In fact, if you want to help us get more dollars, what you should do is give us a review on the Apple Podcast app.
That's the best segue you've ever done.
Comment and subscribe on our YouTube. Interact with us. Let us know what you thought of Fistful of Dollars. And tweet at us, comment on our Instagram. All the links are below, like we said. And yeah, tell us what you think, because we love to interact with you guys. But for now, Nathan, I think it's time that you and I went to that tavern and I started playing the tunes on the piano and you had a little drunken sing. What do you think, mate?
Oh, thank God I've already finished this bottle. I'm in character now.
Hey, let's go.
Hick.